Hi everyone, this is your Hub podcast episode 22. Hope you're all well, and the month of August is all about reset and mindset, and more importantly, rest. I'm sure you've all heard the term work hard, play hard, but we believe it's also about rest. August is a time for you to down tools, for you to reflect and reset for the month of September that's coming up. For me, that feels like the new year. It's where people kind of kickstart and get going again after the summer holidays. So for this episode, we have invited one of our experts into the room who knows this topic much better than we do. We come from a place of experience, but the expert always comes from a place of, doing it day in, day out, and they're the people, you need, I believe, to help you make sure you actually do rest and reset. It's not just a term, guys. It's not just like the term be kind. You've got to put, action to it and make sure you're making this part of your business so your business can ultimately be more successful and you can feel better. So without further ado, Keith, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
I'd love to. Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Keith Blakemore-Noble. I'm the Mindset Master. I live up in the northeast of Scotland. I was born 11 miles away from where I live at the moment. Grew up 15 miles south of here. Went down to Colchester in Essex to go to university for 3 years. Ended up living down near London for far more years than I care to admit. Traveled the world a bit. Spent a year and a half out in Bali, a few months in the US. And then moved back up here to Elgin, as I say, just a few miles from where I was born and brought up. And I've lived here for about the past 8 years.
Amazing. I was actually looking at Scotland yesterday because we're speaking with a potential client at the end of August, and they're based up just north of Aberdeen.
Oh, yeah.
So I was looking at the logistics. And let's just say, if you don't know Scotland, guys, I mean, again, I know areas in Scotland, but, I've been there once, and I didn't get a chance to travel around. It's quite a big place.
It's a lot bigger than many people think it is.
It is, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to have to look at the logistics, but yeah, looking forward to it. So just to explain a little bit more about what you do, Keith, with Mindset Mastery.
Cool. So basically, I help people to take back control of their life, to get freedom from whether it's from things like fears or phobias, or whether it's freedom from unhelpful habits, like smoking or overeating or nail biting or whatever habit is holding you back, whether it's freedom from lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, or whether it's freedom from those mental blocks that hold us back. The sorts of things like, oh, I wish I could run my own business, but people like me don't do that. Whether it's whatever those sorts of things, that's where I help you. I've been doing it for 13 years so far. Helped thousands of people around the whole world doing it. And I do it using my bespoke custom blend of hypnosis, NLP, and coaching. I'm certified right up to train the trainer level in those. And I have also trained people around the world in these tools as well.
Amazing. And I know we mentioned it about, that imposter syndrome of I can't do, I can't be self-employed. But you can, and it is a common conversation. Even just being in Croatia this past month in July, the conversation happened where one of my kind of peers who trained me said, I couldn't do what you do, Zoe, and I just replied with, why not? You can, you've just got to have that belief. But some people do need that removing, in terms of imposter syndrome. It can just be the little things, guys. NLP is not just about the big stuff. The little things can hold us back too. And I know obviously you specialize in hypnotherapy as well. So You mentioned it just briefly at the beginning of the episode about that you've travelled around and you've seen a lot of the world. So how did you get into what you do, Keith? Because I've obviously known you for 3 years since we went online in terms of the networking world. So I have a good idea on who you are and what you do, but I don't think I've ever asked the question on how did you get into doing what you do now? So, what was your path into, mindset and all things that come with mindset mastery?
In a way, I kind of stumbled into it by accident. I used to work in IT. I was in IT for 20 years, rose pretty high up. I was responsible for millions of pounds worth of equipment. I had people reporting to me from 3 different continents, all that sort of thing. But my entire life, or most of my life, I've been plagued by problem. I was terrified of speaking with strangers. You call it social anxiety, call it fear of strangers, whatever you want to call it. Once I got to know people, absolutely fine. But meeting strangers, I mean, how do you talk to a stranger? That sort of thing held me back for so long. It also reached the point where it was starting to impact my career, because you eventually reach a point where it's who you know, not what you know, which gets your next role. And there's nothing wrong with that, because when you're up at those sorts of levels, people do want to know and have good knowledge of who it is that they're taking on. They don't want to take a risk. And I could never there was loads of seminars, all these sorts of things to keep up with the latest technology. I'd look at them and think, oh, that looks interesting. And then look at the agenda and the very first line, coffee and registration. It's like, oh my word, I've got to speak with people. Oh, you know what? I think I've got something urgent going on. I can't make it. But things came to a head when I went to a Christmas party one year. This was kind of just before the likes of Facebook and other social media platforms. So I'd kind of got to know these people through chatting on a website. And they suggested, hey, we all live near London. Let's get together for a Christmas party. I thought, how hard can it be? And it turned out very hard was the answer, because it's one thing tapping away on a keyboard. It's quite another having a conversation in real life. I ended up locking myself in the cubicle in the gents, had a full-on panic attack. About half an hour before I calmed down enough to be able to flee the building. And as I was running to the train station, and anyone who knows me knows I don't run, but I was such panic. I ran to the train station. I remembered thinking, you can't go through life like this. What's life going to be like if you don't change? It's going to suck. So I decided I had to do something. By luck, whatever you want to call it, there was a free personal development weekend a couple of months or so later, and a friend pretty much dragged me along to it. I went along to it, enjoyed it, experienced that it worked. I thought, you know what? This I could use this to help me sort myself out. So it was one of those events where the event's free. Obviously, they make their money by selling you into their trainings at the back end. So me being me, I thought, you know what, I'm going to take the whole lot. Signed up for the whole lot so I can use it, learn all these tools, use them to sort myself, and then kickstart my IT career. Learned it, found I was good at it, found I really enjoyed it, completely conquered all that stuff about speaking with strangers. I helped some friends with it. And I thought, I'd quite fancy doing this as a job, but I've got the high paying IT job. I've got the high outgoings that go along with that. I couldn't afford the pay cut. Then, magnificent stroke of luck, redundancy. I'd been with that company for 12 years. Basically, their boss said, hey, here's a wheelbarrow full of cash, never come back. I thought, you know what? Maybe that's a sign. Maybe it is time to transition into helping people, because I've spent decades reprogramming and upgrading computers. It's time to help people do the same with their mind. And that was 13 years ago. And I've been enjoying it ever since.
Amazing. And I think it just shows for the listeners that, your path can change as well. A lot of people in conversations, when they maybe are stuck with something, or they're not sure on how to evolve maybe the business, or, they feel like they're in the wrong job. And I'll always say, you don't have to, be young to start again. You can start again at any age, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm too far, down the tooth, for, changes. And I'm like, but, Why can't you start something new tomorrow, or even today, do something
Exactly.
a little bit differently?
And a great thing is when you do change later on in life, it's not like you're starting from scratch. You've got all of that experience that you built up in whatever
Yeah.
you're doing before. I mean, what I do now is very different from the work I did in IT.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's still a lot of skills which I honed, refined, and developed within the world of IT, which I can bring to what I do now.
Yeah.
So you're right, it's never too late to make a change of direction. And you're never starting from scratch. You're starting with a unique set of life experiences and skills which you can bring to whatever area you're moving into.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is a piece of kind of content that I always share on my socials, because it always comes up, and it's Judge Judy, and she's in an interview, and it didn't really happen for her until her late 50s. And what she says is, if it hasn't happened to you in your 20s, it'll happen to you in your 30s. If it hasn't happened to you in your 30s, you know, it'll happen in your 40s, etc., etc. Even all the way up to 70 and 80 years of age, you can still change your path if something's not serving you. And one of the reasons why every August, because August is the launch of the hub, we are 2 years old now, and the reason I always look at mindset and reset for this month is because, you know, August seems to be where people down tools. And I think that is just as important as picking up the tools in September, but also making sure that we are being, you know, centric with ourselves, and we are asking ourselves that question when we are resting and we're resetting. What are we doing, and does it really serve our purpose? And if it doesn't, what can we do to change it so it does? So what does rest and reset mean for you in your line of work, Keith? Because I know it means multiple things to many people. So what would you say it means to you?
You're right, it certainly does, but I mean, lots of different things to different people. To me, it's all about the fact that you everything, whether it's living things like us or machinery, equipment, everything needs time out. It needs time to recover, to repair, to heal, to rebuild. And for us, rest is that time where we rebuild. I mean, if you have a car, you get it serviced, or you service it yourself. You don't have it driving on the road 24/7, because if you did, it's going to break down very quickly. It needs to have the repairs, the servicing, check things are okay, make those minor little tweaks before the whole thing breaks down. And it's the same with us. We're evolved to have periods of activity and periods of rest. Both physical rest, so that our muscles can recuperate, gives our digestive system that chance to digest the meal that we've had, because it's very hard to digest a meal when you're on the go. And also mentally gives our mind that chance to rest, gives our brain that chance to heal, to process, and gives our mind that chance to make sense of what's going on, because we've got all of this stuff coming in all the time. It needs a bit of time for filing, for want of a better word, to sort through all the stuff that's coming, to file away the bits it needs, to discard the bits that we don't need.
100%.
Sorry, go on.
We were in conversation with Katie Ford when we last talked about this topic, and the conversation was, when do we really listen to ourselves? And like I said, I've had a perfect example this past week where I went out on a 10K, and I knew my body had been pushed beyond where it wanted to be pushed. I went very lethargic, very tired, and it literally wiped me out for the whole weekend. And it just made me remember of the conversation, you know, are we practicing what we preach? My body was telling me before I went on that 10K that I'd already pushed my body to the point that it wanted to be pushed. And sometimes, you know, that's what rest does. It allows us to be very centric and very, you know, grounded with how our body is feeling, how our mind is feeling, how we are emotionally feeling, you know, because we are our best customer. I'm sure we've all heard that term, and I know you've heard that term to our listeners throughout, you know, the 22 podcasts that we're now into. So it's just important that you mention that, Keith, because a lot of people will say to me, you know, rest and reset means business. And I'm like, but you are your business. in majority of the cases, whether you've got our team or not, you are the, the director, you are the captain hook of your ship, so you have to really be, looking after yourself, but then looking after others, and making sure your team are, and your suppliers are being mindful and resting and resetting, so you can be optimum when you are with your clients.
Exactly. And people will sometimes say, oh, I haven't got time to rest, I haven't got time to take a break. But the reality is, either you make time for it or your body will make time, and you will end up with your weekend wiped out, or a week wiped out, or end up having a full breakdown, and before you know it, months wiped out as you're recovering. So you either take time, make time for it, or your body will ultimately create the time for it.
Definitely. I mean, Mike Lawrence, who presented, I remember him sharing a quote, and he said something like, if you don't spend time on your health and your well-being now, you'll be spending that time on your illness later. So kind of the question is, isn't it, in terms of when people say they haven't got time to rest, as you've mentioned, Keith, well, you will have time for your illness, so you have to have time for your health, because that's you being mindful and you trying to be your optimum self, in all areas. So we've talked about a lot of people say, they don't have that time. So to me, they struggle to switch off. And very much, I talk from a place of being there, done that, because that very much was me. And I made myself ill in lockdown because of that. So I come from a place of understanding and through that experience. So for people who struggle to stop and struggle to see that they have to make time for this, is there anything you can suggest as a top tip? So if there's someone like me 3 years ago listening to this on the podcast and thinking, well, I'm that person, I can't make time, I'm too busy, what would you say to them as a top tip if they struggle with rest and reset?
I think that the first thing is to recognize the fact that we often think, oh, I'll rest when this is done. But when this is done, it never comes. There's always more. There's always stuff coming along. And so there will never be I'll have a rest when this is finished, because it's ongoing until the day we drop dead, basically. It's always ongoing. So with that, once you accept that, the next thing to do is to recognize, okay, I've got all of this stuff to do, all these people to help. I am better able to help people when I am rested and when my batteries are topped up than I am when I'm running on empty. And if I want to serve all of these people, I want to do the best job that I can, because that's why I'm helping them. And they're depending on me. They need the best that I can be. I can't be my best when I'm exhausted and worn out. And when I am exhausted and worn out and I'm still heroically plowing on, I'm not serving these people. I'm letting these people down. I'm effectively harming these people. I'm not giving them the best. Why would I want to be so selfish as to not serve these people in the best way that I can? Obviously, I wouldn't want to be. I want to help them. And the best way I can help them is to make sure that I am refreshed, so I can focus all my attention on them and bring all of my energy to them. And the only way I can do that is I can do that in bursts. And then I need some time just to recharge so that I can better serve these people. Because if I don't, I'm not helping them by serving them when I'm running on empty. I'm actually holding them back. I'm being selfish and hindering them. And the reason I phrase it that way is because so often we think, oh yeah, I can't take time out for me. I've got to help these other people. But we're not helping them. If we want to help them, we need to make sure we're rested and recharged. It's like that whole thing with in the airplane, put your own oxygen mask on first, because if you don't, you're going to pass out before you've had a chance to put the oxygen mask on the others. If you put your own mask on first, yes, one or two of the people you're with might pass out, but it's only momentarily. You are fully recharged. You've got plenty of oxygen coming in. You can now tend to them and look after each of them and put their mask on. You can't do that if you're worn out. So recognize the fact that having rest, taking breaks is actually helping you better serve the people that you want to serve. It's helping you show up more.
Yeah.
It's helping you to be the person that you want to be. Once our mind kind of clocks that, then we remove the guilt, because often we feel guilty about, oh, I need to rest, but if I rest, then I'm not helping that person. When in fact, if I don't rest, I'm not helping that person, but by resting, I am then able to help that person.
Yeah.
It's even things like, yeah, you can plow on, but you may be operating at like 20% capacity, which means it takes you 4 or 5 times longer to help them. What if you took a little bit of time out, rested, and then were able to help them at five times faster than you would have been before? You've actually rested and helped them and still got a bit of spare time.
Yeah, 100%. And it's practice does make perfect, guys, because I come from, like I say, a place of understanding. And in lockdown, I was back to back because I lived on my own. My office was at home. It was my way to have company because, I was with clients or networking. But I made myself ill because there was no space in my diary to just even go down and have a cup of tea, sit down with my animals and come back up an hour later, or even have a lunch break. And I now actively make sure that there is a lunch break in every day that I'm working. And even as of yesterday, I had a one-to-one at 2 o'clock, and then I had a one-to-one at 4 o'clock, and I wasn't feeling my optimum self, was feeling a bit lethargic. So I had to be mindful not to go and use that gap and do loads of tasks. I was mindful to go and remove myself from my office and just walk around site, get some fresh air, get some steps in, make sure that I am at my optimum to help that client at 4 o'clock.
Exactly.
So we have to be mindful. And I know we've mentioned this before, Keith, in terms of we have to make it a pattern, because, we have to create a habit. And I know there's a lot of people who will be listening to this and say, yeah, I'm tip top with that. I can do that. That's what I do. But, what I would say, guys, if you are that person and you do put your mindset first, in August and in every month, because that is my point, we should be looking after his mindset, not just for August, but it allows us to, be grateful and remind ourselves of the importance of this. You do need to celebrate it as well, because that's where it's going to become repetition. So is there any tips you can provide our listeners, Keith, on, okay, so how can I make this a habit? With your NLP side and the hypnotherapy side, is there something that you can recommend there for anyone who is doing this but isn't doing it, regularly?
Sure. I think you touched on one really good way of doing it. You say you make sure you've got lunch in your diary. We so often we pack our schedule with meetings. Make sure you blocking it, because I don't know about you, but probably like me and like most people, we have online calendar things, or all these things, so people can book in, which is absolutely brilliant. Make sure you book your own stuff in first. So book your lunch break every day. Book some time for whether it's admin time. So you've got time to check through all of those emails, to do all the stuff that needs to be done, so that you're not rushing to cram that in everywhere. Even doing things like that will help reduce that stress a bit, because you're not going, oh God, after this meeting, I've got a dozen emails to reply to, but I've also got that, because so scheduling time to do basic admin stuff, scheduling time to have time to yourself to relax. And when you do, also make that relaxing time something that you can look forward to and something that you can enjoy. So rather than just, oh God, I've got to relax. Right, okay, come on, let's relax. I'm not relaxing yet. I've got all these things to do. Give yourselves things you can do that you enjoy for relaxing. For example, reading a book, or catching up on, what? I've got a favorite YouTuber. I'm going to watch 2 videos of them in that break. I'm going to save myself up, watch those 2 videos, and then get on with stuff. So you've got things that you can enjoy and you can look forward to. Schedule them in, make it enjoyable. And each time you do it, just remind yourself, yay, I'm doing this so that it helps me, so that I can help others. This is cool.
Yeah, definitely. we were in a conversation with an expert, both myself and Keith know, but we was in a conversation with Caroline, and I was asking her that question in terms of, you know, what helps you switch off, and she mentioned gaming, you know, in between appointments, you know, to make sure she actually was switching off from work, because, you know, that was how she could immerse herself in something. I've had a coach called John Kobe ask me, right, how can you fill your cup up? And I love listening to pop music. That's what makes me feel, you know, better. So I'll put some pop music on. You know, it's different for multiple
Different for
people,
everyone,
you know, there's not
but
just one thing, is there? But 100%, I love that you've got to, you know, to create it a habit, create it into something that you enjoy, because, you know, the more likely you will do it. I mean, I even looked at a list from a lady in my local network called Rafiette, and she is a client, and we were talking about, I've just got it here, what are your non-negotiables? And I put in there health and fitness, music, family, friends, travel, and going to the theatre. And she said, okay, so you now need to be mindful of them 6 and how you can make sure they're implemented into, you know, your rest and reset. So obviously friends and family are in, the gym's in, I go 3 times a week now. I play music when things may be overwhelming and I need to switch off. The only probably thing that isn't in is theatre, but we are going to schedule that in probably October time. So, you know, even the experts, you know, that's talking about the topic of conversation need reminding. So that's where I just wanted to touch up on it, guys, because, you know, sometimes we are very hard on ourselves and we know we need to do these things, but we sometimes do and we sometimes don't, you know. So if you're struggling, listen to Keith.
It can be absolutely anything. I mean, social media and doom scrolling gets a bad reputation these days, but even that can be a way to relax, as long as you keep control of it. So you can schedule, you know what, I'm going to spend 15 minutes, just switch my mind off, doom scroll through Facebook, see what's going on, have a laugh at a few TikToks, catch up on some Instagram, set my 15-minute timer, do that, just switch my brain off, consume that stuff. When the timer goes off, phone down and get back onto work. It gives us that break, whatever it is, that just gives you a break from what you're doing. And one final quick tip, often people go, oh, I've got so much going on. And when you try and switch off, your brain's chundering away, go, oh, we've got to do this, got to do this. One thing that can work really well is have yourself a nice big A4 notepad. Anytime your mind goes, oh, we've got to do this, right, and just jot it down on the pad that that's something you've got to do. Dump them all out. Doesn't mean you have to do all of them there and then. Some of them you may never do, and that's absolutely fine. It's a decision you can make. But what it does do is, what happens is we try and switch off and our mind's going, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do this, remember this, oh, don't forget me. They're all jumping for attention because they don't want to be forgotten. When we just dump them all out on that piece of paper that you then keep there, so that you can get around to them as and when you need, mind goes, oh, okay, we've noted that down. I don't have to keep reminding myself about that because it's there. And that's a good way to start quietening the mind down so that you can relax. You go, yeah, I know I've got a million one things to do. They're all on that bit of paper. I'm going to switch off for 15 minutes and then we're going to come back and see what we're going to do.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it just shows as well, for those that are not familiar with the hub, we do the webinar every month as well, and ask, you know, a different expert their perspective on these topics, and present, you know, some activities for our subscribers to kind of go away and do. And even though, you know, yourself, Keith, and Rachel's delivery are completely different and you do completely different things. You know, Rachel Chiverton's time management, Keith is very much NLP, mindset, hypnotherapy, overcoming, you know, that imposter syndrome and fears. You know, you still say the same message in reference to, you know, that brain dump, that, you know, how you can, you know, improve things for yourself, how you can make sure there's, you know, free time in the diary to fill your own cup up. And that's great for me to see, because, you know, it comes full circle back to, you know, that core message of the importance really of rest and reset, because it's not just me banging the drum, it's the experts and, you know, them, saying the same message, but obviously, differently. And like I've said, guys, I come from a place of experience. So, that's the reason we bring experts on, so you can, speak to the experts if you wish and reach out to them. So is there anything coming up, Keith, that our listeners can get involved in with Mindset Mastery? I know you've got a few things bubbling, ready to launch. So is there anything you can reveal yet on what's next and how they can get involved?
Yes. So one easy way they can kind of sample Mindset Mastery is each month there is the Mindset Mastery Hour. It's 1 hour on Zoom. We get together. It's very much interactive. So it's not me sitting and lecturing and you listen. It's very much interactive. We have discussions, but we do a different topic, a different theme each month. Spend an hour on it and you come away with hopefully a deeper insight into the topic and some actionable tips that you can take to help you improve your mindset in that area. We have one a month, every single month, usually the last Wednesday of each month. The next one is coming up on, quick look at the calendar, 29th of August. It's at noon. And that one is all about positive affirmations. We're going to look at what they are. We're going to look at why they don't work for many people. And we're going to look at what you can do to create ones which do work with your mind so that you can start to make use of them. Yeah,
100%. It's a great resource for our listeners. So if you do obviously think that is for you and you would like something monthly, to help you, do reach out to Keith. If they wanted to reach out to you and, explore that further, how would they do that? How would they make contact after the podcast?
Cool. I'm on most social media platforms. I am blessed with having a unique name. I'm the only person on the planet with this name. So if you look for Keith Blakemore-Noble on any of the platforms, it's me. If you search any of the search engines, whatever comes up, good or bad, it's me. So connect with me on any of those, or just go straight to my website, keithblakemorenoble.com, where you'll find out more about me, about Mindset Mastery, about the Mindset Mastery Hour, and all the other ways in which Mindset Mastery can help.
Amazing. For our listeners within the hub, Keith will be in the hub until the end of the week, but we are connected with Keith. So if in the hub, which is our online community, you wish to reach out to him directly, just drop me a message and I'll do a formal introduction through social media or through email. If anyone is listening to this and is interested in being one of our podcast speakers, do reach out to me at hello@askzoe.co.uk. We're always looking for experts, to help our members. And if you are a business owner and you are wanting, non-invasive is probably the best approach I can explain my delivery for business development, you are more than welcome to come and have a conversation with me to see if the hub can help you. It's part of our one-to-one offer, but you can come in if you just want, to dip the toe into the water when it comes to business development and see if our experts can help you. So do reach out to me on that same email address or by searching askzoe.co.uk under services, you will find the hub. So thanks again, Keith, for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And that is a wrap for episode 22. And we will see you all very soon.